So, with that being said, Colby, do you have anything else to add before we go into the next segment?
Um, I wanted to just like talk about some of the interesting Val. You talked earlier about the Val gems, and some of them kind of are weak. I did want to talk about some of the really nice combos that I have seen that people are using very effectively, both that I've seen personally while leveling and on some videos. If you want to hear it.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Fire
All
away,
right,
man.
so I noticed there's a lot more people doing this now, I think, but leveling up, you can kill a lot of bosses even without specking directly into like spell damage. I've seen people just toss in a like an LMP and a spark and just completely one shot pretty much every boss once they have the charges with that spark combo. Some people are doing it with Val Fireball as well. It's a little bit less effective, I think. But I think that that's one cool idea is that once people start figuring this thing out, there are ways to get through the content a little bit better by using these Val gems to just like completely wreck those bosses that normally would be really hard for you. I've seen some apparently LMP Burning Arrow is a good one for bow stuff, and at high levels I've been using I was leveling with a guy who had Val Cyclone, and we would just run up when we're doing piety runs, and you know that right before the portal there's that huge area of mobs. He would just start Val Cycloning and he would just destroy everything and suck in the whole screen, and I would detonate stuff while he's doing that. We did it in a couple of maps like Tropical Island. You can clear out a huge area of the map and almost completely refill it. So with the right setups, I think some of these Val gems are actually very useful, if only for utility. For example, like Rain of Arrows, just to lock down some of those bosses that are chasing after you. You can lock them down for like 4 seconds or something like that, and so you can run away or get some extra DPS in. So I think there's definitely ways to look at these gems. There, some of them definitely not that impressive, sure, but I think they did a good job of some of them being very useful, and they definitely have that ultimate skill feel to them.
All right. With that being said, the Valve Fireball, if you link it with GMP and then Trap and then some sort of added chaos damage, you open
I
up
was thinking.
you open up with Bear Trap, lock them in place, and then throw the trap, and they literally get hit by every single fireball and one shot them. It's crazy. It's like a
Exactly,
little
that was my plan. I was actually leveling
Nice.
Val Fireball, Trap, GMP, and Conk Effect is what I was going to try out.
Conk effect.
And
Conk effect.
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So, but I just didn't get around to actually seeing it go through, fruition since I died this morning. So I'm sure we'll see some videos of people using it effectively. I was hoping to do it, but we'll get around to it eventually.
Surprise. All right, with that being said, before we get into our next segment, I would just like to say we're about halfway through our podcast right now, so thank you everybody tuning in. Again, thank you GGG and Twitch for allowing us to do this, and thanks to the mods moderating chat. With that being said, we have 6 more microtransactions to give away. We have 1 more at the end of the podcast. We have 2 more at the end of the podcast. When I go live tonight, I'll be giving away mine. Colby Cheese has 2 to give away how he decides to, and he'll let you know how he's going to do that on his stream. And Hegemony TV, he's got 1 more left to give away, and he will let you know how to do that via his stream as well. So stay tuned. We have 6 more microtransactions to give away, and we're going to start up the next segment, my segment. I definitely would like some positive criticism behind this, but I want to prove that Val gems are good and can be very useful. So with that being said, let me just whip out some monitor capture here. The 2 builds I have planned right now, I have 1 planned for evasion, 1 planned for armor. Let's discuss the first one. This is a burning arrow build, and the burning arrow has always been a gem that it's used but not used a lot. And there's mainly because like things like burning arrow, the quality on it's lackluster compared to other gems. Frenzy will give you more damage, but with the Val burning gem, it allows you to use a more effective builds with burning arrow. Let's describe burning arrow. The difference between burning arrow and Val is you get 30% extra damage as fire, not conversion damage, extra damage. So it's like a mini added fire gem. And Val burning arrow is 60%, so you get an additional 30 there. Also, the ignite chance, let's say level 15 is a pretty good level, is about 70%, whereas burning arrow at level 15 is 42%. Now, Val Burning Arrow is pretty much like a fire discharge when it hits. You shoot the burning arrow, boom! I wanted to make a build using it because I think it's very strong and it's underrated. And right here is my character I have, and this character I wanted to show how Pierce affects the Burning Arrow gem. And now with Vaal Burning Arrow, the initial hit will still do the explosion. If using LMP, you'll have 3 explosions, but with Pierce, it allows it so that you'll have multiple explosions. Now keep in mind, this isn't crazy gear. I just hopped on standard, threw some stuff together. But if you throw up a Pierce here and shoot it, you know, that one didn't actually pierce, damn it. You can hit multiple targets with it. And the benefit of this is the soul cost on Vaal Burning Arrow Gem is very low. In normal difficulty, it only costs a big whopping 12 souls, and in Merciless, it costs 24. I mean, it's beautiful. You can make a lot of interesting builds with it. And obviously my bow is very weak in this. I just wanted to display how Pierce works with it. So let me hop out. So here are the 2 builds I have planned. I made one with a Ranger, an Invasion-based one if you're an Invasion fan, and I also made one with a Duelist. Straight up Duelist would go IR. It would pick up Iron Reflexes, and then work into some armor, the newly buffed armor tree, as well as getting Resolute Technique. It would be using Blood Magic, whereas the Ranger would be focusing on the Pierce, as well as the Evasion, and picking up some other bow nodes. The great thing about the Evasion build right now is with cast on damage taken and Mortal Call with increased duration, and then these improved skill durations, when you take that big physical hit, you'll be immune for at least 7 seconds with this combination. If they're quality, probably upwards near 9. And that's just in a cast on damage taken, not a self-cast. If you'd like to, I'm going to provide links to both of these. And the really interesting thing about these builds is they released 2 new quivers that can really help out. And the first one for the Duelist build, right here, it's a block quiver, and it gives you physical damage, armor, which is already what we want. Get that projectile speed, which is it's okay. Block stun recovery. You know, when you read that, you're like, why? Well, at the very bottom, it gives you 21% chance to block and 14% chance to spell block. And then you get increased projectile damage. So this is the quiver I would end up using with the Duelist variation of the spec, you know, the armor variation. And then they provided a brand new Pierce quiver. And this thing is just insane. I'm probably more leaning towards this being used with the Vaal gem, because the very bottom thing, very bottom stat is projectile damage is increased by the arrow pierce chance. Well, you get 10% from this bow. Projectile weakness quality can provide upwards near 60%, if not more. You have the 35% in the tree. You know, you have the Pierce Gem. Pierce Gem actually becomes a viable option now. With this being said, getting over 100% Pierce is actually a pretty silly thing, but it would actually increase your damage. Would I go for the Pierce Gem right away? Probably not. You know, it's just you know, theory crafting at best. Also, this provides a big chunk of evasion in life. It's a beautiful quiver. We have yet to see the CI quiver yet, because it seemed they made one for armor, one for evasion, and one for energy shield. Hopefully when the energy shield one drops, we can make some good theory crafting builds behind it. But that's what I gotta say about my 2 versions of the build. If you guys would like me to do a full build breakdown, I could do it later on stream. But for the sake of this, what do you guys think about the whole Vaal Burning Arrow gem? Do you think it could be viable?
Yeah, it sounds cool. I want to see it in the works. Level up the team.
How about you, Colby? Let's hear it.
It actually sounds pretty interesting. I'm curious if it's gonna be. Let's see. You're gonna have to use. You know, you're gonna have to get those souls up initially. So, what are you planning on doing for your, you know, your usual DPS when you're not using the burning arrow?
Using burning arrow, you can make a single target.
Just use a regular burning arrow.
There you go.
And you're just continuing to pierce.
Right, and it scales very well with added fire as well as the elemental nodes. And the cool thing about it as well is it stacks 3 times. So it's not like I use Vaal Burning Arrow, now I got to get more souls. It could stack up to 3 times. So it only costs 72 souls to do that, and that's slightly more than just to get 1 stack of a current gem. And then in normal difficulty, it only takes 36 souls to get a 3 stack, and that's a joke to do.
Yeah, I've been using it actually on my current Bow Ranger, which I just started right before the stream. I'll put on LMP and use it in a sec, and I'll probably have some Pierce stuff later. So, you know, I'm not going to be doing your build, but it's definitely a really strong ability as it is. But and burn builds in general are really nice. So once you can get that, you know, like if you're proliferating burns through things and stuff like that, it's pretty exciting. Like burn builds, fire builds in general are really strong in this league from what I've seen so far. People doing all kinds of fire stuff, and so it'd be interesting to see a viable bow-based fire build, just like other than explosive arrow.
Exactly, and you won't even need the chance to ignite gem at all. That's the beauty behind it too.
True.
Would you be using Purity of Fire and Ondars to?
Well,
help
with
the
evasion, you
reflect?
don't even need the Purity of Fire, but obviously in the duelist spec, you would need something like that. Yes, or you can use just a ruby against an elemental pack. Ruby flask. But Onder's Guile completely negates any need to ever worry about reflect at all, both through elemental and physical bow specs. It's beautiful.
Yeah, don't be using that with Alliance Clear.
No, yeah.
Exactly. That's the main thing you want to keep in mind.
Well, the thing is, you could go crit with a Harbinger, or you could just go standard pure physical with a lot of life, go tanky version if you're doing evasion. But I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Just the fact that the explosion works with Pierce, that's just endless possibilities of fun right there. So with that being said, I think we're going to transition into our Q&A. We got a lot of time left right now, so I guess we could spend a little bit more on Q&A. And at the end of that, I will be taking down the podcast, and we'll be doing the rest of the, at least the rest of the podcast giveaways. We have 2 of those, so hang tight. I appreciate everybody coming in. All right, let's see what we got for questions here. Keep asking your questions, guys. So the first one, if whoever wants to answer this, or each person can, we got Wantang Wantan no Giku. I totally slaughtered your name, man. Do you think Orb granting a passive point would be broken if it was as rare as a mirror, for example? What are your takes on that, Colby?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. What did you say?
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, do you think an orb dropping with the same rarity of a mirror that granted a passive skill point would be game breaking by any means?
Oh, like it granted like a permanent extra passive,
Exactly.
and that you can like continue using?
No, just one use and that's it. Here's a free skill point. And it has the
Yes.
same rarity as
My
one mirror.
answer to that is yes.
I
They
am with
balance-
complete
They
That,
balance the
it'd
game
be like
on having-
everyone would have to get that type thing.
Not only
Yeah, it's-
that, but there's some people out there that RMT. There's also people out there with endless exalts in Standard League Hegemony. So with that being said, those people would control that market.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I
the
don't
main-
like that particular idea. I mean, I don't mind them like releasing more crazy orbs that do certain things with your character rather than items, but that particular idea is a little bit not so
Yeah.
good.
It's the game would have to be balanced around people accessing those. And when they design these trees and they design these keystones, they're made so that you have to pick and choose and not just like grab everything, everything and do whatever you want. That becomes way too powerful and way too much of a balancing scheme that they would have to do.
Perhaps.
What I wouldn't mind seeing
Go ahead. What's your
is some kind of orb that you use on maybe like a certain passive skills like on the tree, and it will potentially like a Vaal orb potentially corrupts one of your passives and maybe makes it something different. Then you would have to use like a regret or something to get rid of it, or maybe it just fucks your character. I don't know. That could be something really hilarious and weird, but I'm not sure if that was like an expensive orb that you couldn't just constantly do it over and over. And then if you messed it up, you would have to regret out of it, essentially. And maybe it only worked on certain Keystone passives. That's the only thing in that particular area of ideas that I can see being cool. Like crafting your skill tree rather than crafting an item.
There was it was a Reddit post about 3-4 months ago about making an orb where you choose the link where it goes in, but making it extremely rare. So if you get that 5 link on a 6 socket, and then you get this orb, you can finish off your 6 link, but making it just as rare as a mirror, or maybe just slightly rare as a mirror. And I think that was a pretty interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean that sounds interesting, but it also sounds like a programming nightmare.
Yes, I agree with that one.
A lot of work. Xenon40, he asks, how do you sustain a caster in the late game without Life Leech? If it's not possible, do you need Bell Pack plus Life Leech Gem to survive any crit-based caster? You guys want to take that?
Yeah, I could do that one. With the recent changes with Life Leech, it really did hurt casters in my opinion. There is no spell leech currently in the game. I mean, other than a lucky Vaal Orb. And with the